and welcome to an Everyday Canines video. This is the first video looking at weights and self-control in your dog, which we're then going to build up to start line behaviour, which we can use in agility and hoopers and other sports. So as I said, we're going to start with a simple basic weight, and it's something that I start teaching my puppies very early on because it's such a fundamental skill that is essential. It could be as simple as wanting them to wait before you give them their dinner, so they're not jumping up all over you. It could be if you use crates or they're in a car. It could be that they are waiting before you have them come out of the car. So if it's a crate, you open the door and they don't jump out until you ask them to, which if you use crates in cars is actually quite an important safety thing, because obviously if you were in a car park or something and there was cars coming, you wouldn't want your dog just diving out. You want to be able to say to your dog it's safe to come out. So there's lots of ways we'll use weight, and I think all dogs benefit from having a weight and that element of self-control. For me, of course, there's the extra element that I want a weight to use when I'm doing agility, because when I start my dog up before a jump, at the start line, I need them to wait so perhaps I can go 2-3 obstacles ahead, maybe more if I was student daring, and be ahead of them before I release them. Same applies to hoopers. I would want them to be before a hoop so I could get to where I need to be before I send them. We also need a weight in obedience for when we're doing recalls, and that's a good moment to talk about the difference between a wait and a stay. Now, what do I mean by that? You say they're both the same things. The dog sits in one position and then does something afterwards. And you're quite right, that is true. However, for me, a wait means I'm going to ask you to move to do something else. Give you an example from obedience. I'm doing a recall. I set my dog up in a wait, I walk away, and then I expect to be able to recall them from that wait, asking them to move out of that wait to come to me. Is that the same if I was doing agility or hoopers? I'm asking them to be in a wait, and then I'm going to ask them to do something. With a stay, we want them to remain in the position we left them until we return to them and release them. So I use two different words for that. You don't have to, but I use two different words because that way the dog understands this is a stay. This means I'm here until my mum comes back. Or a wait is, right, she's gone away, she's going to ask me to do something else next. That might not be a problem for you if you don't do obedience, but it's just something to bear in mind. Now, for doing a start line there's actually a lot of elements to it. It looks like a simple thing. You say the dog comes up to the line, they get going, and it doesn't look like there's much to it, but actually for the dog's learning, there are quite a few elements. So I'm going to start today by showing you how I begin to teach a weight, a basic self-control weight, and then we'll move on to how I progress that to doing start lines in the next video. So with Pi and with my not with my other dogs, with Pi, good girl, I'm trying to teach that the weight occurs with one word. So if I ask her to sit, sit. Good girl. I want her to remain in a sit until I release her. I don't want to then have to add a weight cue. So sit means continue sitting until I tell you different. With my other girls, previous to that, they all have an extra weight cue. So I would do sit and I do weight, but with Pi, I want it to just be a sit. There's two things to bear in mind when you're doing weights, and it's the double D's: distance and duration. Distance is obvious, that's how far away can I get from my dog and they continue to hold the position. Duration is obviously the time that the dog will hold the weight for before you can release them or before they get twitchy and you know, right, I've got to build that up. You need to work those two elements separately before bringing them together because they are two very different elements. And if you try and do distance with duration at the same time, then you're going to set your dog up to fail and you're going to have a lot of failures before you get successes. So I've put Magpie in a sit here, and I'm just quietly rewarding her for remaining in that position. It's not looking like a wait because I haven't asked her to wait, but she had to remain in that position. She's broken it now, so we're going to reset. Okay, sit. And she's just learning that if she remains in this position, every once in a while, she'll get a treat. So you can see we're building up that foundation. She's sitting there. The longer I sit in this position, the more treats I'm getting. Very simple, very basic. We could do this in a down. You could do this on a dog bed if you wanted to. Good girl. And when I want her to move, oops, I timed that wrong because I dropped the treat. Sit. Break off. Sit. Ideally, what I want her to, when I want her to move, I'm going to tell her I want her to move, which in this case would be a break cue. So break. Good girl. So that she knows she can move then. So that is a work in progress with her. We still need to get that right. And it is about your timings, knowing how long your dog will wait for before you ask them to break, and then gradually building that up. So when I'm starting this with a puppy, obviously when we're teaching sit, we reward instantly. What I then do, break, when I'm teaching it with a puppy, is I say sit, I wait a breath, then I reward. Simple as that. So that there's just that moment between the reward and then they perform the action and the reward. And then I'm going to do a couple of seconds before I reward. So I'm going to say break, good girl, and sit, good girl. So again, it's just building up that duration and her understanding that, okay, you're not getting instantly rewarded, but as long as you hold that position, you're going to get rewarded at some point. And you can see again, I'm doing this here. I'm just rewarding her for being in that position. I'm putting lots of value into that position and for her remaining there. Okay, break. So then what I start to do, once we're getting that, is I start to mix up how long a time I set her down for and bring her up for. So let's say I put her in a sit and I count in my head 1, 2, okay? Now I'm going to count to 5. Good. Initially I might not do that. I'd probably go to like 3 first and then 4. I wouldn't be quite so daring, but you know, because she's done this a bit and because I'm demonstrating it to you, I just want to show you how you get there. So I've gone from 2, then I'll count 5 seconds, then I'm going to count just to 2 again. Can you get it, my maid? So that she got up because I dropped the treat. So let's start again, right? So I'm varying the amount of time between treats, again, to mix it up, because dogs are very canny, and I had this with Swift. When we were doing our stays, Swift managed to work out where 59 seconds was on a 1-minute stay. And you could time it to perfection. 59 seconds, okay, I'm up. And that was, you know, people didn't believe it, but that was hilarious how she did it. But dogs do get canny on these things. So if you constantly count to 10 before you reward, the dog will learn that. So I'll show you a bit what that looks like. And I'll count aloud, though I would usually count in my head. So break. Okay. Ready? Sit. 1, 2. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3. I'm giving the treat badly there, would you notice? Because she's jumping up to get it. That's very bad on my part, so I'm going to make sure I deliver my treat a bit better. Like that, see? Oops. And that was a failure because the treat got stuck to my finger. Right, let's start again. Magpie, sit. Okay, 1, 2. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That's about our limit. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Good girl. Break. And you only want to do this in short little, there it is, sections, because it is or short sessions, because it is a intense exercise for the dog. They are self-control exercises. Whenever you do a self-control exercise, especially for a high drive dog, they are an exercise that requires the element of patience and holding themselves in and a lot of mental activity for the dog. So it's very tiring, so don't overdo this. But if you do short sessions like that every day, gradually building up your time, as I say, 10 seconds is about my limit at the moment, but obviously we're going to try and build that up. Eventually you'll be able to get to 10 minutes if you wanted to and stuff like that. But that's where you begin. So we've done it where we just talked about the duration. We're doing that as an element on its own. Now let's have a look at distance. So with distance on your weights, we're going to do that in a different way. The first thing we need to teach our dog is that it's okay for me to move while they're in a position, and they are to remain in that position when I move. So Magpie's in a sit. I'm going to just move a little bit. Oops, she got up. Okay, sit. So I won't move quite so much. I'm just lifting my feet. Shuffle this way. This is the side I tend to lose it on. Interesting, huh? Good. You can just do this. Oh, very good choice. So she thought about getting up then, but did you see she changed her mind? And she went, no, I'm still meant to be in there. Break. So that was a really good choice on her part. I like to see her choosing things like that. This is part of the game. She's choosing that position. So I'm just moving. Now, to begin with, if your dog is very motion sensitive, it may just be you can only literally pull your toe up like that. That might be enough to start with. You might not be able to take a step. You just got to play with it to see what your dog is comfortable with. And I start to just shuffle and move. So I'm not going very far. And every time I take a step or so and she holds the position, I reward. The whole point is I'm building up that idea that you can still be in that position and I move. And then the next thing to do is I take a step away. Very nice. Now that was quite a big step. You might only, oopsie, okay, sit. You might only be able to do a little tiny step. Whatever size step you can do, good. Okay, and I'm going to go one more. Nice. And you see, I'm not staying out there too long. Oh, you got up. Sit. Going back very quickly to reward it because it's about the fact that I stepped away and she appreciated it and she was okay. She held the position. Okay. So now I can, oh dear, see? So this is what you're going to get. You're going to get a lot of mistakes, moving, breaking the position, break. So it's just something to play with. This is normal, this is natural. We teach our dogs to follow us, especially puppies. Puppies want to follow us and be with us. You think how much recall work we do, which is our dog being with us. So it's natural for them to want to come with us when we turn away and walk away. So don't stress it, just take your time. You know, I think a weight like this, a solid weight, depending on the breed, you could be looking a year, 2 years before you've got a really solid, that you can say I can do anything and wander away. And that is if you keep working at it. Working cockers and other working dogs, and obviously collies, they can be really hot on their weights because of the nature of the breed. Though then again, they can also be very sneaky about breaking them. But that's another story. So I'm just going to show you one last little thing I do with Pi, and then we'll call this session done. Okay, sit. So I'll move out one step this time. Oops. Sit. Try again. Good girl. And I'm going to put, oh dear. We're in a field, you see. We normally do this at home. So it's a higher distraction level. And I should have said to you, start this in a quiet place with low distractions. This is a big distraction environment for her. Okay. One last go. Just want to show them what I want to do. Okay, sit. Nearly gave a weight cue. Sit. Going to be out. And I'm going to say, go. So you see, that's the beginnings, good girl, of teaching that weight for agility. Good girl. But I would mainly be going back and rewarding her staying in the position. I would only do a couple of them, then I'd be mainly walk there. So that's your starting point. Your first goal is to aim for 10 seconds and then aim for 20 seconds. Good girl. And then gradually move up. And the same with your distance. Start by just being able to go 1 step away, 2 steps away, a bit more movement involved. As we progress with Magpie, we can look at how we advance this. But that's stage 1 of the start line setup. And in the next video, we'll talk about where I go from there. I hope you've enjoyed this Everyday Canines video, and if you have, check out the YouTube channel and you can subscribe and click on the notifications to know when there's new videos coming out. You can also find us on Facebook and Instagram, and I hope to all see you again all very, very soon.